Well, hello. I'm going to talk about how to use SSH from Perl, how to automate things with SSH. I suppose most of you in some way today use SSH. And how do you? I have found that most people is still using things like systems to run commands or backticks or net SSH or expect, net SSH expect. This work, or I mean, that's was working on the past, but nowadays we have better things. Because, I mean, if you use system, for instance, that's okay for very simple things, but once you want to do more complex, I don't know if you're listening or you want to use the microphone. Okay.
Hello. So, if you use system or backticks, you are going to open a new connection for every command you want to run. It is very slow and inefficient. Using password authentication is also like help. And you have to quote the arguments, so they arrive in the remote machine after one day. Sometimes twice, because you have a local shell, you have a remote shell, or otherwise write insecure scripts. Net SSH is a very thin wrapper around SSH, and the truth is that it doesn't offer too much functionality. Then you have Net SSH Perl, that it's a huge module, and when it was written, I mean, it was rated for a very good thing, but the problem is it's so huge that nobody's maintaining it, so it's good. It has a lot of bugs, and the other problem is that it's very difficult to install, especially for Windows users, because of the map pairing model. The other thing is that the IPA, it's very limited. You can do simple things very fast, but if you want to do things more complex, it's very difficult to use. And it supports SFTP, but doesn't have support for SCP, and a lot of people need that. Expect is another great model for interacting with standard commands, but and it's very good to automate SSH password authentication. But once you have the remote command running on the remote machine, you don't want to use expect, right? Because that means talking to a remote shell and waiting for a prompt to come back, and you cannot do that really well in a generic way. Also, the TTIs sometimes drop data. That took me, I mean, that a lot of scripts are bugged because of that. If you run software in X or HAIX, sometimes you will have really hard to find bugs because of that. But this is the correct way to use expect. Most of the time you want to use it to automate SSH, by the way. Right? You just use expect to redirect the SSH TTI. But for the standard input, standard output, standard error channel, you just use pipes. No? You don't make the standard or strings go through the TTI. Then you have a net SSH expect that builds on top of expect, but in the wrong way. Right? It just talks through the TTI, and the way that, I mean, it talks to a remote shell, so it sends a command, looks for the last one, looks for the prompt, and really it doesn't look for the prompt. It just waits some time, and if after some time you don't get any more output, it says, okay, the command is done. And so that's doesn't work in general. What are now the alternatives? Those are the SSH models. But I think are the state of the art today. The first one is not bad, the second, third are written by me, maintained by me. There are a lot of them, but I mean the first three are like the building blocks where you can build more advanced things. So NetSSH2. It's a wrapper for the live SSH2C library that is well maintained today and it's quite portable. More or less easy to install in Unix and Linux machines. In Windows it's not impossible because of people just disable to do it and don't know about VMS. And I mean it's efficient because it opens a connection to the remote machine and then it launches commands over the same connection. So you don't have to log the remote machine every time you want to run a command there. It has a very low level APA, I mean, it's just a thin wrapper with a C library, so you have the C APA. And for very simple things, it's very easy to use, or it's easy to use, not very easy to use. But once you want to do something more complex, it's becomes almost impossible to do it right. If you look at the code, you will find Perl or I don't know, whatever, talking about how to do things using NetSSH2. Most of the code is full of bugs because NetSSH2 is very difficult to use. It supports STP, has support for SFTP, but it's very primitive and not very efficient. Well, as the actors of the wrapper. That's how you use it for very simple things. How you connect, authenticate the most machine and launch one command. Right? It's very straightforward. So the problem with NetSSH2 is that it's very low level, so you have to, I mean, a lot of work for doing small things. SSH2 is not mature, it has bugs, and the SSH2 community is, well, it's not very easy. I mean, the quality of the code they are producing is not so well simplified. It requires a C compiler. For some people, that's a problem. And so, another mode, one of my own, is OpenSSH. That's a wrapper around OpenSSH SSH binary. From, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. OpenSSH got a feature that allows to run several commands over the one connection. So, and it's modularly use it, so it's efficient in that way. The API is very powerful and has lots of bells and whistles. It's easy to use and it's complex, really complex things. Sometimes, or most of the time, are easy. You can run asynchronously, so you can launch command remotely and several commands in parallel on different machines. It has support for SFTP, SCP, rsync, and also for exporting, porting file system over using SSHFS. And has support for quoting the arguments, so you don't have to worry about quoting the arguments that are sent to the machine yourself. That's some samples of these days. You can, well, here, you create a new object, you paste your credentials, it's just one step. And this is how you catch errors, or, well, it's a shortcut, so it dies if it was an error at that state. Has a command to capture the output from one command. If you use it in array in this context to return the lines, if you use it in scalar context to return just a string with all the lines joined. There is a capture2 method that returns the output and the standard error output. You can run things, I mean, this is like a system, but running the command in the remote machine. You can pass data for the standard input string, You can put add instructions to every method, starting there with a hash. Yeah. So most commands support standard in data and things like that. That's a common to all the methods. That's options. Spawn start the command in the background, you get the bit, and you can use it as another program bit and wait for it and things like that. Has support for STP, it's very easy. For AirSync also, so you can AirSync between your local and remote machine. That's very straightforward. SFTP will return an net SFTP for an object, so you have a full SFTP client, and you can use both at the same time. I mean, once you have a SFTP object, you can mix calls to the SSH object with calls to the SFTP. As I told you, it has automatic argument quoting. It tries to emulate the system behavior, the system built-in behavior. So if you pass just one argument, it's not going to quote it. It's going to pass it as sys to the remote machine. So it's going to be run through the remote shell. But if you pass it several arguments, it's going to quote them. So effectively, it's like avoiding the remote shell. Right? For instance, here we have an space. It's not going to be quoted. And you can disable the quoting, or you can put here the one you are placing just. I mean, you can selectively enable or disable if you don't like the default way. Another very interesting thing is that you can set it with argument to code. And this is not basing a reference, it's based off the strings. So, well, it's a hack, but visually it's very easy to read. You know? Yeah, if you pass a single reference to a scalar, it's going to quote it, but let the wildcards unquote. So this is expanded by the remote set, but the space here is quoted. Right? It's very handy. And if you don't use a double reference, it's going to quote it. It's not going to quote it anyway. It's going to base it assist to the remote command. So, for instance, this space here is not going to be quoted, and probably it's going to produce an error when you run the ls command in the remote machine. You can also use that to join commands. For instance, this command here, the arguments are going to be quoted, but then you can use that to join it with a second command, and then radiate the output to the loop, for instance. Currently, the stable race supports POSIX shells, but in the development release, the argument plotting code has been moved to a backend system, so now there is support also for CSS, derived support TCSH and that thing. And I always planning to do a Windows backend, but this is Windows quoting is it's not even possible enough in the case to do quoting. So the problems with net OpenSSH is that net OpenSSH does not work on Windows, mostly because OpenSSH doesn't support the multiplexing fraction on Windows. Requires SSH, and actually the OpenSSH command. So if you, for instance, are using Solaris or IX, it's not going to work because, well, Solaris SSH is a fork of OpenSSH project, but they have not keeping updating it, so it's a very old version that doesn't have the multiplex. So I felt sad for the Windows people not having a proper NetSSH client. I did that. Mostly it's a wrapper around OpenSSH or NetSSH 2 that provides the Net OpenSSH API, a subset of Net OpenSSH API. I also have a backend plan for this. Maybe just supporting running it over any SSH command, but well, that needs a lot of work, so I don't know if I will be able to do it anytime. It supports SFP. Actually has the development version has a full implementation of SFP. SFTP is supported the Net SFTP for a module. This is still a work in progress, but the basic functionality works, is stable. Several people are using it already in production. So if you just want to learn some commands and on remote machines, get the output back, it works quite well. This is a new comment to that, another module. The interesting thing about this module is that use the AnyEvent framework underhood. And so you can integrate it very easily with AnyEvent. If your application is using AnyEvent, to be able to say it. And also, the author says that one of the motivation was supporting sudo. On the other side, the API is very limited. Just can run commands and get the output back. It talks very much, yeah. So that's always mean that's reliable. That's another model of mine that allows it builds on top of Net OpenSSH. It mostly bad because nobody was able to do it right. So I said, if you want to do things in parallel, you can use that. And it builds on top of Net OpenSSH, obviously. It has a declarative API, so you tell the module what your remote host app, what actions you want to run on the remote machines, and then say run, and it's going to perform all the actions for you. And after that, you only have to look if there were some errors, some problems, and that's all. So that's how you use it. You create a new object, register the host that you want to control using SSH, and then push commands there. That you say host 1, I want to push that command. Host 2, I want to push that command. So you have all the power of Net OpenSSH here, so you can do whatever Net OpenSSH is able to do. You have options or redirection, things like that. You can also use wildcards. So this is going to, this are like file system wildcards, right? Or regular expression. So this is going to match host 1 and host 2. Another feature is that by default it has enabled variable expansion. So if you have a %, it's going to be, there are certain variables that are going to be replaced by, in the case for instance, the host name. So, well, you push the command you want to run, then say run, and it will run everything and take care of everything you want to do and parallel. It has support for most of Net OpenSSH functionality. You can perform STP, rsyncs, you can pass extra options like that. It also allows you to define custom subroutines that are going to be run in a forked process. So, for instance, if you want to automate something with sudo that's not supported by default, you can. That's well, a bit complex, but here, once you run a SSH command, launch expect, handle the login, and then run some command. And once you have defined that, so you can just use it like that. And when it's being run, the model will fork a new process and all that's everything. So they work in parallel also. And when you're running things in parallel, sometimes you have dependencies, so you cannot do something until another thing has been done. In that case, it could be something different host. So you can push joins. That means that before running anything in the safe machine, for instance, it will wait for all the work, all the tasks in DMC tab host to finish. Right? For that example, for instance, we are getting files from this host. So once all the files are local, we can run another command and move that files to another machine. The problem is with net OpenSSH parallel. This is not a way to distribute load around a set of hosts. You know, you have to say, I want to run that in that host, but you cannot say, run this task in this set of hosts. The best way, you know. Just run one command in per host. So it's not going to you cannot say, this host can have 4 CPUs, so you can run 4 commands in that machine in parallel. And there is no way to pass the standard input, standard out, data from one command to the other. You have to go through the file system. This limitation is mostly because I have not been able to make my mind. I will help to design an API that will enough to support that. Right? I think it's, I have not been able to make that fit in the API. But another module that builds on top of net OpenSSH. That's for people that has coding that works on top of net SSH Perl, net SSH 2. Sometimes people is not able to install these modules because, you know, for instance, the first one in Windows is almost impossible to install, or you don't have a compiler. So this emulates the APIs of this module. If you load this module before loading that one, it's going to fake the module and replace them. And it goes for most scripts. I have never decided a report for somebody saying that there was something that was not implemented, because very few people use the advanced features of those 2 modules. And sometimes you just want to do SFTP, right? And for that you have NetFTP fine. That's a long time ago. It was a fork of Net SFTP that was a companion module for Net SSH Perl. But I have rewritten most of it from scratch in version 2. So it has very few remaining code from Net SFTP. And these are a couple of models that I have in the works. Test SSHs, because I have a lot of SSH models that I want to test, and sometimes it's very difficult to test SSH because you need running daemon, you need credentials. So this model is able to fake everything, to launch a test in SSH daemon, or it tries to get a SSH connection working in any way. You know? Try several tricks, and well, the other model I have is net, on the box is net OpenSSH gateway. That's a module that sometimes you don't have direct connectivity to some host. You have to go through a gateway or 2 or sometimes 3. So, and that module has support for implement a lot of tricks to get there, in the machine you want to work. So you can use shortcut or NC, you can run SSH over another SSH. I mean, have several attempts, and it's going to look for a way to get there. But, and it's already working, it's not in CPAN, it's in GitHub, but there's things that I don't like. At the end, I don't like I've done it, so my plan is to write it from scratch, but it's a lot of time. So this is still hanging there. And there are a lot of interesting models that are related to SSH on CPAN. SSH batch is another model that builds on top of net OpenSSH, I think it's from some Japanese author. Well, it's another way to calculate parallel program. It's, I think it's probably easy to use that net OpenSSH parallel, but more limited. App Mr. Cells is the same, does the same, runs commands in parallel using net open. Yeah, I think that also uses net OpenSSH understood. This is an adapter for net OpenSSH to run it inside code. Then you have real machine that allows, this is a very complex model, very powerful, but not very easy to use. That allows to distribute log around a cluster using SSH. IPC power SSH does the same, but it's a bit simple. You probably have already know about Rex. That's some framework for DevOps. That's all. Any questions? Okay.
What module would you advise to use in synchrony to connect to multiple hosts synchronously?
What do you mean? Synchronous or asynchronous?
Yes, synchronously.
And what do you mean exactly by
An event
synchronous?
or
What do you mean by synchronous? Because, I mean, you mean parallel, running at the same
it's
time?
actually parallel, waiting for during CPU waits for computation for connection one process and connection another.
You can use any event or code. There was
You said that
SSH
supports
that.
event.
That one. But, I mean, the problem with that is that it's not running commands on the machine. It's talking to a shell on the machine. And so, maybe it works for you, but this kind of implementation is trying to Net OpenSSH can be used asynchronously, so you can also integrate it with an event or code. There was a power adapter for Net OpenSSH, but I think it has not been maintained lately.
I understand correctly that each new connection spawns a separate process on SSH.
Yeah. SSH for every connection. But once you are connected to our host, you only have, well, you have another process, but it's nothing. It's like a door. It just set up the connection to the master SSH connection and then waits for the command. And the master SSH process takes care of all the interaction and forwarding. Yeah.
Is there any way to easily detect like common failures? Like when I'm trying to automate some of this stuff, I sometimes find that the user I'm logged in as isn't, say, in the sudoers file.
Sorry.
So if, say, you try and run a sudo command remotely and you're not in the sudoers file, how do you go about handle dealing with that kind of scenario, because you're still kind of talking to like you're talking to the sudo command, not the command you intended to run.
Yeah. That's a limitation of sudo. That's a limitation of SSH, right? SSH, if you walk forward the TTI, it's not going to keep it separated from the standard input. So you have 3 channels. Usually for any command you have 4. You have standard input, standard output, standard error, and the TTI. But when you use SSH to access a remote machine, once you are there, you only have 3, because the TTI and the standard input are beyond 1. So it's a limitation of SSH with other protocol.